Hello and welcome to the SFCA podcast. Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us. All right, everybody, I know that you've got many things to do today. I don't want to keep you from whatever you're doing. So welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Miguel Penna. I'm president of the Southern Florida Concierge Association. And we have two amazing seasoned hospitality icons with us this morning. They've been a guiding force in the hospitality community, not only with this, but historically through 9/11, various hurricanes, and they're too far to name. The financial crisis just over 10 years ago, if you remember Zika as well. So they're going to be the ones that are going to get us back on the road to continued success and prosperity. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Wendy, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Miami Beaches Hotel Association, and Rolando Aedo, Chief Operating Officer of the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. Good morning, each of you. How are you?
Good morning,
Great.
folks.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Good morning.
So either Wendy or Rolando, if you want to go ahead and start.
Well, we were chatting earlier. We've been chatting earlier. So I think the idea, Miguel, is for us to just say a few general comments, and I'll say a few things, Wendy, and then I'll take the group through our recovery plan. And I know Wendy's got a lot of amazing wealth of knowledge in terms of the hotel reopening, which is critical for this group. So just let me start by saying, first and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you in the hotel and hospitality industry, and especially Miguel and the Concierge Association. You know, we've had a long-standing relationship with Miguel and with all of you. You guys have been literally in the front line. I know there's a lot of talk about front line, but you guys truly are the front line of the hospitality and specifically the hotel experience. So even before the pandemic, I just wanted to reiterate our thanks on behalf of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know, we've worked, as Miguel alluded to, we've gone through many of these crises in the past, but we've also collaborated on many positive things like Miami Spice, Miami Spa Month. We will persevere together. I know it sounds like a cliche, but this community and this industry is arguably one of the most resilient in the country, if not the world. And it's because of people like you and your creative thinking and your perseverance. So I'll be going through a couple of slides in a few moments, but I also want to recognize our close and dear partner, Wendy from the Hotel Association. We have, I think our spouses are getting a little bit jealous because we're spending more time with each other, at least virtually, than we are with our significant others. But she has been amazing, amazing. So with that, I'll turn it over to her.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rolando, and thank you, Miguel. I'm very excited. As Rolando said, the concierges and all of the partners are so important for us. I was thinking about all the concierges that I worked with, including Miguel, right, at the Grand Bay Hotel and the Biltmore Hotel and Delano back in my catering career. So we really appreciate all of you, all of what you do, and all of the partners of your association as well. And yeah, Rolando's right. I mean, although he got a haircut. I haven't gotten my haircut yet. I'm going to get one this weekend. But it has been, with this Zoom, the technology, we've been doing so many webinars about, we had a boutique panel. We had a sales panel. We've had so many great sessions, and also a panel just to go over the guidelines, the hotel guidelines. So we're looking forward to talking more about everything that we're doing, and I think that we're lucky in Miami, Miguel. I think you'll agree that we've got such great partnerships. I mean, we're all working together nonstop, and I think that's very special. And I thank you, Miguel, for everything that you do for us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
So we've all become quasi Zoom experts, and I'm going to do my best to live up to that role. I know all of you have been living in this virtual world, whether it's Zoom, or in our case, we're using a lot of Microsoft Teams, which coincidentally, right before the pandemic, we had rolled out internally in our office. And it's been a godsend to have these tools. But at the end of the day, this industry is about face-to-face meeting and greeting, and especially as people walk into those hotels and look at all your amazing and smiling faces. And we're, you know, our hope is to get there really, really soon. So with that, let me walk you through the Bureau's tourism recovery plan, which is things that we've been doing and things that we will be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. So bear with me. Hopefully I get this right. Sharing the screen, and it'll take a second, and there you go. You should have in front of you a beautiful sunrise on South Beach, and I think it's also symbolic because the sun too will rise. We will get through this together, and we're very optimistic. We're, you know, there's a lot of openings and reopenings that are happening in the coming days, and we're already preparing for that opening. So let me walk you through a couple of quick slides. I want to be very respectful of time. So Miguel, please don't hesitate, or Wendy, don't hesitate to tell me to speed it along. We have shared this presentation, which is constantly evolving with a lot of key stakeholder groups, including yourselves, obviously hotels, our governmental partners, our board, and now I have the privilege of presenting it to you. So thank you for giving us the time to do that. I did want to reiterate our experience in doing this, for better or for worse. Miguel alluded to it. I've been with the organization for 26 years, believe it or not. And I was here, ironically, I came to the Bureau as a result of Hurricane Andrew in 1992. Now, I didn't join the Bureau in 1992, but I actually, you know, the Bureau was successful in getting a grant after Hurricane Andrew. And about 2 years after Hurricane Andrew, the Bureau got this grant and hired a couple of consultants, and I actually was one of them. So I guess in an indirect way, I owe my position today to a crisis. And in that case, it was 9/11, pardon me, it was Hurricane Andrew. But not shortly thereafter, we've gone through a series of things, 9/11, Zika, hurricanes, and all that experience. I'm drawing on all that experience as an organization, as an individual. We have an amazing, well-tenured team. This is what's developing in our tourism recovery plan. Now, we recognize that this is different. So I know that these crises individually were quite significant, but what we're going through now is kind of a combination of all those and a little bit more. So we're not naive to the fact that things are dramatically different, but I think our experience as an organization, and as some individuals, will really make the difference to get back into our business as quickly as possible. You know, coincidentally, right before the pandemic hit, we had actually just completed our strategic plan. I think some of you had participated in that process. It was about 6 months. And one of the key things that strategic plan brought to the forefront was how we needed to engage our residents more than ever even during the best of times. And ironically now, as we go through this recovery process, I think our residents can play a critical component of helping us bring business back as quickly as possible. I'll share with you some of those ideas in a moment. You know, our response strategy has been built on these 3 prongs or 3 pillars about educating our stakeholders, including folks like yourselves, our guests, our meeting planners. We also have a mitigate prong, and that was our effort to help stimulate some business as much as possible during that pre-recovery phase, knowing that we had to pause all our traditional sales and marketing efforts. We had to really pivot quickly, but reinvent ourselves in a very brief period of time. By the way, speaking of reinventing ourselves, like you, this organization has also gone through some organizational adjustments. We've unfortunately, like many of you and your hotels and yourselves, we've had some staff reductions, some salary adjustments, but those were necessary steps that we've taken in the past, and we took again today to allow us the resources that we need to launch this recovery campaign, which is really under the last pillar in front of you, stimulate. So that's just our way of saying that we want to drive as much demand back into our industry in the shortest period of time. And hotels and restaurants are two of those key demand drivers that we're looking at very, very closely. You know, this seems like years ago, and Wendy, it probably seems like years ago to you, but I just wanted, you know, back in March 9th, we actually had a coronavirus forum at the convention center. We brought together some of these great guests, including Wendy, the mayor, the health department, and who would have thunk back then that we, in essence, were shutting down our industry? Because that was not the case. If you look at the bottom left-hand part of this, we were educating our partners in our hotels, and we were distributing materials on how to continue our industry, but with certain guidelines in place. And then, of course, everything changed. We shut down hotels. We shut down everything. But I just wanted to remind ourselves that, you know, we've been at this for a couple of months now. And talking to people like yourself and all these stakeholders, I won't go through this list, but there are more groups of individuals that we're working with more than ever for all the right reasons, because this is touching everyone. In fact, we're working closer than ever with chambers, with the Beacon Council, which is our economic development group, with our residents that I mentioned earlier, many, many community organizations more than ever moving forward. Hopefully, some of you are aware of some, if not all, of the programs that we've launched during these pre-recovery phases. Right after things started getting very difficult, we launched a help page, and that page was dedicated to informing our hospitality workers, our meeting planners, on all the information that they need, on places that they could get relief and recovery programs, which were much, much needed. We launched a Miami Salutes program that we wanted to recognize those first frontline and first responders that were helping us through this process. We did working with Wendy, we were identifying those hotels that were open for essential lodgers, which I think are still about 170 hotels. I know many will open in the near future. We launched a virtual Miami program because we wanted to keep Miami as much as possible top of mind for our customers, because we knew that there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand, and we wanted people to, you know, keep us in their thoughts, in their process, so that when they were making those travel decisions, and hopefully in the near future, that Miami was at the top of the list. And one of our most robust programs was our Miami Eats restaurant program. We took the whole team that has developed Miami Spice in the past, and we repurposed them to develop Miami Eats. That program has about 1,200 restaurants that we were showcasing those that were open, number one, and we're offering takeout and delivery. Like hotels, restaurants were dramatically impacted, had to lay off a lot of people. So this was one way that we're hoping to keep some trickle of business going into these restaurants until things got back to a relatively new normal, which we're about to enter in the coming days throughout the county. So, you know, Miami Eats was quite a comprehensive effort. As I mentioned earlier, is our attempt to keep jobs as much as possible. And I know, you know, all of you, I would imagine all of you have been impacted in one way or the other. The Miami Eats, we've talked with a lot of those restaurants, and they give us some credit, not all the credit, for helping keep some of those businesses alive. And one of the key things with Miami Eats is about calling those restaurants directly. We all have some great third-party apps, you know, Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats. And under normal circumstances, I think those are great apps, but we really wanted to encourage the customers to contact the restaurants directly, because a lot of those apps do charge a significant commission and all sorts of fees. So we actually spent a lot of, you know, we spent money advertising those restaurants. And in fact, we developed a TV spot that some of you may have seen, but for those of you that have not, let me go ahead and run it.
Every time the phone rings
at our restaurant, it brings us hope.
Because every time you call us directly
For takeout or delivery,
our kitchens come to life.
We season your food
with love and gratitude,
so you can enjoy it at home,
by yourself or with your closest ones.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for calling us.
thank you for ordering out.
Merci.
Gracias, Miami.
Miami Eats. Order out, help out. Dial your restaurants now.
So I know due to the internet lag, I don't know if you saw that, but I would encourage you to visit the Bureau's website. GMCVB.com is the quickest way to get there. You will see a variety and detail on all these programs, Miami Eats in particular, but the virtual Miami. We developed a toolkit that would allow people to amplify all these programs that we've developed thus far. And one of the ways that we've been keeping the word out is obviously social media. While we did pause most of our paid media, social media, as all of you well know, is such a powerful tool. We have a dedicated social media agency that's been helping us, and then we've got an internal social media person that's been coordinating a lot of those efforts. I know some of you may be very anxious to what's going on in our airport and our airlines and our seaport. I will tell you that this slide is probably already outdated. Things are changing moment to moment. But I think what is still true is that our passenger traffic at MI is down about 90%. And it's pretty eerie as you look at the airport, and it's basically a ghost town in comparison to how crazy busy our airport, which is one of the country's busiest, typically is. You know, airlines have dramatically reduced their capacity. They are getting some significant federal support that will help them through the end of September. But, you know, I will tell you that, you know, there's a lot of question marks on what happens after September 30th. I'm sure some of you have heard that airlines may be looking at some significant layoffs come October 1 when that federal aid runs out. American Airlines had planned to resume a lot of their service internationally on June 4th. That plan has fallen apart to some extent. And it's not because of their unwillingness to fly. It's frankly driven by government restrictions. As you heard just yesterday, the U.S. put a ban on any travelers from Brazil, one of our top markets. So in a moment, I'll show you what American Airlines had planned to do, but their plan is being adjusted as we speak. And of course, Port Miami, and you know, we're in constant contact with Juan Carrillo, the port director, a dear friend of all the industries. You know, this has been the poster child of coronavirus. You have heard that there was some plans to resume sailing in August, and I think that was Carnival. But I will tell you, based on some anecdotal internal conversations, we don't think that's going to happen in August, and those plans are changing as we speak as well. This is the lineup that American had shared on their international, well, and their domestic flights as well, starting in June 4th. A lot of this has changed. I will be updating this, and I'll share it with Miguel. By the way, we'll get you a copy of this presentation, and we'll try to keep this as updated as possible, but please bear with us because it is changing moment to moment. I know that some of our team members from our sales department, they're listening in, and I just wanted to kind of reiterate some of their efforts. They, you know, under Ida's leadership, we're working with Barry and Sonia and so many others of our sales team. You know, they've been more creative than ever. You know, they have been reaching out to all those meeting planners that book a lot of meetings, not just at the convention center, but inside many of the hotels that all of you work, as you all know. That's the majority of our meetings business happens within the hotels that are on the beach and in downtown. And it's not perfect, but Zoom has been an amazing tool to keep that personal engagement, which is especially critical for that meeting planners. The sales team has fully leveraged all the things that we've been doing through our pre-recovery campaigns. We'll talk a little bit about Miami Shines, and they have been keeping busier than ever. We are, you know, they too are looking to pivot at what markets might bear the most fruit. I know the Florida market is something that we're looking at closely on the leisure side, and I'll talk about that, but they too are looking at on the meeting planner side. So that team, and I know we're gonna have a Q&A session at some point, and that team too can perhaps make themselves available if there are questions very specific to the sales efforts. So, you know, these are just two examples of some of the newsletters that they've been sending out. And in some cases with the meeting planner community, as the email really says, is that we're thinking of you. We're here for you. I know a lot of their business has been canceled, and in our case, and in many cases, rebooked or postponed. I know that, pardon me, let me click back here. Oh, there you go. One of the key things for the meeting planners, but also for everyone, and I know Wendy, working with her as we did after Zika, coming up with a hotel pledge, we want the meeting planners and we want guests alike to feel confident when they do start coming back into our community. So we are working on this destination pledge, which our goal is that every customer touch point and working with those organizations that are primarily responsible for those experiences, whether it's the airport or the hotels or the convention center or the restaurants, what are all the measures that are going to be in place? So whether you're a meeting planner, whether you're a guest, whether you're a delegate, what are the reassurances that we can give you to enjoy your Miami experience as best as possible? So this destination pledge is something that is being worked on an ongoing basis. It will incorporate not only CDC guidelines, but all the guidelines that the associations are putting in place, all the to ensure that the guests have that confidence to whatever extent possible. Our multicultural tourism department has really been engaging a lot of our small businesses, because ultimately Miami is about a lot of small businesses. So yes, we have amazing hotels and large corporations like cruise lines, but restaurants are small businesses and small retail shops, especially some of those that are in some of our key neighborhoods. This is what guests come to Miami for. They want those small, authentic experiences, whether it's in Little Havana, Wynwood, Little Haiti, all these neighborhoods have become attractions, and that's what's driving people into our destination. So our multicultural tourism development program during the pandemic has been working with these small businesses to help them get through this and hopefully survive, so that they will be there, they will be vibrant, and will continue to be an amazing draw once those guests come back. You know, we've got a whole team dedicated to sports and entertainment and, you know, venues, whether it's the convention center, whether it's Hard Rock Stadium. They too are taking lots of steps to make sure that they can start bringing, you've heard a lot about NASCAR and Homestead Speedway without fans for the short term. We don't know exactly what the fall football season is going to look like, but we're trying to get ahead of that. So we're working with all these venues, and we're actually we'll be publishing a new venue guide that will incorporate all these guidelines, and that'll be available on June 24th. And of course, it'll be available digitally for all of you to use as a point of reference. We know how poorly the hotels are doing in relative terms. If you just take a quick look at this, you know, the last couple of weeks we're about 25% occupancy. That typically would be closer to 80%. All of you know that. And it's not just about occupancy. When you look at RevPAR, it's down, you know, 85%. So needless to say, hotels have been hammered, and really speaks to our thrust of our recovery efforts will be to drive hotel guests as quickly as possible. If we get people into our hotels, we are confident that a lot of good things will happen. Not only the restaurants in the hotels, the restaurants outside of hotels, our attractions, our museums, our neighborhoods. So that hotel customer, and I know there's a lot of other ways people can stay in Miami, but hotel customers are at the top of our pyramid. They spend the most, they stay the longest, so that's gonna be a top priority. You know, this outlook has changed dramatically, but needless to say, one of the things that when we're looking at recovery, we can't compare 2021 to 2020 because 2020 is going to be such an unusual year. So we will be looking at 2019 as a reference point as we look forward to what the experts are saying. But, you know, recovery in the mind of some, in the mind of many, really won't start happening until Q2 of 2021. We are also looking closely at what other consumer sentiment surveys are saying. These are a few. The good news is, and by the way, there is good news based on what I said earlier, this industry is very resilient. Why? It's because travel is like a birthright. People will always travel. They did after 9/11, they did after Zika, they did after hurricanes, and there's a lot of pent-up demand on the consumer side and even on the meeting side, and there's going to be a lot of activity. We've been meeting with a lot of hotels. We're starting to see some very optimistic things, Q4 and early next year. So business will come back, and our job is to drive it back as quickly as possible. So I've talked about pre-recovery and recovery, and I make the distinction because while we've been very, very busy during pre-recovery, recovery will now start speaking to that stimulate bucket that I mentioned earlier on. I've already talked about how our priority is to drive hotel demand, and our approach is going to be to fish where the fish are biting the most. And that includes a lot of you, or all of you. We want locals, we want people in our Tri-County area to support their hospitality industry and stay, instead of considering going off to places far afield and even within the state of Florida, think of Miami first. We are blessed to be this amazing destination that people fly, drive hours and spend thousands and thousands of dollars just to get here. We are blessed to have that in our own backyard. So this idea of whether you call it a staycation, which we've used in the past after similar crises, is going to be one of the ways that we're going to drive people back into our hotels as quickly as possible. We also want to take advantage of Miami's unique cosmopolitan global feel. We know that people will be not doing international travel for quite some time. So we're going to be leveraging this idea of, come to Miami, drive to Miami and travel the world, because we truly are a global destination. In fact, as I was seeing the names pop up on our screen for this Zoom session, you yourselves are a microcosm of the world. And that's been a linchpin of our success. The fact that we are blessed to have all these cultures, all these languages, all these sights, these sounds, these smells, these tastes is something that we're going to be counting on as we go through this recovery phase. In fact, speaking of taste, and I mentioned Miami Spice, part of our recovery effort is also to unleash all our amazing value programs like Miami Spice, Miami Attractions Month, even Miami Spa Month at the right time, concurrently to give people amazing deals to stay in our hotels. So our team right now, as we speak, is communicating with a lot of these great industry segments and loading up our website with the most amazing deals that all of us, including for staycations or for people driving down from as far away as Canada, can enjoy once our hotels reopen, which is right around the corner. To build our recovery campaign, and this is not an ad, this is kind of a manifesto that we've developed to help guide our efforts. It's very optimistic, as it should be, because this industry is about optimism. So let me just quickly read it, because it's going to be our North Star. It's going to guide our recovery efforts moving forward. Greater Miami is all about vibrance and energy, and we could all use a little bit of both. It's also about life-affirming positive vibes, full-on optimism, and the can-do attitudes of our people and of our city. It's a place where sunrise and sunsets are equally radiant, where cafecito hour brightens our afternoons, and where luminous moonlit skies light up the night. That's how we shine every single day of the year. And that bright, beautiful, sun-drenched attitude permeates everything, every place, and everyone in our destination. And it will await you, ready for you to explore, discover, and enjoy. We stand by you as you stand by. So come shine with us, all you adventurers, beachgoers, foodies, music fanatics, culture seekers, and art lovers. Let's shine. That word shine, really speaks not just to our amazing weather, even though it's been horrific the last couple of days, but it speaks to the shine of our people, of our employees, people like you, your smiles, the shine of our neighborhoods, the shine of our experiences. So this idea of how Miami shines is the platform that we're creating. You can see it behind me on the step and repeat. Miguel, I thought I saw it on your virtual background, and everyone gets extra credit whenever they use Miami Shines, because we want this to be a platform that is embraced by all, not just targeting customers far away, but asking our hospitality industry and even our residents to be part of it. So we have a video that is helping us through the pre-recovery phase, and we're actually updating the video now that we know businesses and hotels will be reopening. But let me give you a flavor of where we're going. And by the way, it's available in English, Spanish, and Creole. So I am going to run this. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. Okay. Okay. Hold up. Let me just run it this way. I'll run it this way.
Sometimes looking ahead is what moves us forward. It's in those moments. Sometimes looking ahead is what moves us forward. It's in those moments when we discover who we truly are, where we appreciate more than ever the beauty of life and turn that admiration into inspiration with life-affirming optimism and a thirst for endless discovery. There's a place with that same bright, sun-drenched attitude. It radiates from everything, from every corner, and from everyone. It turns bricks and mortar into masterpieces and lets nature thrive in its natural state. So we invite you to look forward to a brilliant tomorrow in a place that sparks joy and ignites smiles. We can't wait to welcome you with open arms. Until then, we stand by you as you stand by, ready for our Miami sun to shine brighter than ever. Let's shine together.
So we're getting ready to shine. I mean, we're no longer in standby mode. We have a date. It's a target date, and of course, that's something that I think in the coming days will be finalized. I believe Wendy will be speaking more specifically on that. But you know, our Miami Shines program recovery campaign will hit all the markets that you would expect us to hit, and this is just kind of a snapshot. I reiterate, not just on the consumer side, but on the meeting side, which is so important for many of your hotels. And if you look at the timing of the markets, as I alluded to earlier, we're going to be targeting the Tri-County market. Then we'll be doing some drive markets, Florida, Georgia, the Southeast drive markets. And then as we get more airlift and demand, we'll be targeting some of those key U.S. markets. And then perhaps on a phase 2, we will be looking at the international, which we all know, everyone agrees, will take the longest for to come back online. And to a large extent will be driven by what airlines are doing, and frankly, what governments are letting airlines do. But our key is to keep Miami top of mind as a travel destination through these pre-recovery phase. You know, as I alluded to on the bottom side, you're gonna see us unleash the power of Miami Spice, attractions, our museums. People are gonna be looking for great deals, and we are competing. By the way, everyone's competing for those drive markets. So I'm sure a lot of you have been seeing a lot of advertising from St. Pete, Clearwater, Naples, even Palm Beach, Orlando. So we're gonna have to be very aggressive and creative, and that's why we're asking our hotel partners especially, and our restaurants to be as creative as possible with any deals that they have available. And frankly, for some folks like yourselves, looking for some staycation offers, perhaps now's the best time to do that. Same thing with our convention center, working with Ida and the team through those pre-recovery phases. We will now start communicating this gradual reopening. And as you'll notice, the one new thing that we're doing, and I mentioned early on about how we want to engage our residents and our industry. A lot of the things that we've done through past crises has been outward looking and primarily English for those customers. But we definitely want to take advantage of all the Spanish-speaking communities within Miami, including our Creole-speaking communities, which I think we all agree are the backbone of our industry and our success. So we will be developing, well, we have developed toolkits, which are going to be further evolved to allow all of you, and in whatever language we have available, to help amplify this idea of Miami Shines, especially through social media, which is so powerful. Our PR team is rocking and rolling. They're identifying thought leaders like Miguel, like Wendy, like others that can speak to our customers. We're already doing some virtual fans with journalists, and we're identifying influencers that, you know, once the hotels and the restaurants start opening up, and many have them already, they too will be amplifying through their social media. We did a great program with Samantha Brown just before the pandemic, and again, sometimes better lucky than good, but this, and Samantha Brown is considered quite the personality when it comes to travel. So this is airing right now through a lot of the PBS channels, and it's showcasing a lot of our amazing neighborhoods. You know, that PR team will be leveraging this local, regional, national approach, and now more than ever talking about the road to Miami. And I know Miami, perhaps in some people's minds, isn't a road trip destination, but the reality is that we are. In fact, that's how it all started back in the 20s and the 30s. We want to recapture that idea of people driving many, many hours to come to Miami because we are so unique and we can offer the world on that one experience. So we're going to be taking full advantage of that. And Gisela Marti is working with travel agents. Travel agents continue to play a critical role. I know that people think that travel agents are gone. No, they've evolved. We've got traditional travel agents that are now working in very creative ways. We have OTAs, and those are travel agents, but in a very different way. So we have just rebuilt our Travel Agent Academy to educate all these travel agents on all the latest and greatest things that are happening within our destinations. So with that, that's the recovery campaign plan so far. I will tell you that after this Zoom call, I'm meeting with our agency, and a lot of these things will be updated because we know that we want to be ready when hotels reopen with that target date of next week. And unless Wendy tells me otherwise, that's the date. So with that, thank you so much for what you do. You are our front line, and for that, this Bureau is truly, truly appreciative. So Wendy, take it away. I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Wendy? Can we hear you?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
You all hear me?
Coming in a little garbled.
Thank you, Rolando. I watch these tapes. They're just amazing. So we're really so fortunate. Can you hear me? You all can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So I know that we're very, our top priority is getting our employees back to work, right? Whether they're in the hotels or the restaurants or the amusement parks, Jungle Islands, aquarium, all of that. We're really, really excited. We know it's been very, very challenging for many of our employees, and we're really looking forward to welcoming them back. So I just want to I'll give you a brief overview, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. But a few weeks ago, along with Bill Talbert and a few of our hotel GMs and owners and a lot of different industries were involved in Mayor Jimenez's The New Normal initiative, which comprised of, I think it was 17 different task forces. I was on the hotel task force, and we had many meetings late, Zoom meetings. I felt like I was there, we saw everybody. And I want to thank Mayor Jimenez. I think he was very thoughtful. He didn't have to do this. He didn't have to bring the industry together, and he did. And they had, a Florida Department of Health. We had epidemiologist Juan Suarez was with the doctors. We had chambers of commerce and Beacon Council heads. We had there were residents. So it was a good combination. A lot of hard work, and this is a living. This is alive. I tell people this is a breathing document. Okay, so you want to really you all want to go onto the link to get the latest update. And I'm getting a lot of questions because we're looking at and hoping for a June 1st opening. As you know, there has not been an emergency order out yet, but Mayor Jimenez had a meeting with us, I think it was on Thursday, to let us know that, they're going to open the beaches and the hotels June 1st, barring no spike with the virus. That's very important. So that's why we're kind of, I know a lot of hoteliers are getting ready, but being very careful. You've seen what's going on across the country, and we need to be number one for safety and comfort, and really making sure we open the right way. And we're very, very focused on the guidelines. So when you look at the guidelines, what's bold is what you have to really pay attention to the bold verbiage, because it's very important that you follow that. one of the things that we worked on during the hotel task force was we were able to work with Shelley Fano at Miami-Dade College to establish a training program for our employees. So it's a train the trainer program. And today we'll be reaching out to all of our hotels with a form from the hotels to fill out for the college. So the train the trainer is one person from the hotel that will be trained, and that trainer will go back and train the employees. It will also be provided in Spanish, Creole, English, which is great. And and that trainer will get a certificate. So very, very important. June 1st, not everybody's going to be trained because the program starts on June 1st, which is fine. But we're going to set up the registration today so that you can all go online and do that, because that's very important. And then the other thing to keep in mind with the hotel guidelines, you also have restaurant guidelines, which are separate. They're not in the hotel package. So you want to look at that. The restaurant guidelines, to me, are the most intensely detailed. And, again, any questions that you have, you can reach out to us. We had Steve Haas was involved with the restaurant guidelines. A lot of great, I know Carlos Gazatua was from Sergio's. I believe, we had a lot of great restaurant people on that task force, but don't hesitate to ask. I'd rather you be over ready than not ready. And you can decide what you want to do. You can decide if you want to if they're going to open up all the floors in the hotels. I know some hotels are talking about waiting a little bit to the middle of the month, which is fine. It's absolutely fine. So just be prudent about that. And there's different phases. For example, no valet in phase 1. There's lots of things that you need to be aware of, and just I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that a lot of the hotels, Miguel, are having a supply problem, so they're looking at supply of hand sanitizers and masks and whatnot. And it's you can reach out to us for that. Also, the CVB and the Chambers of Commerce, because they have a lot of companies that are members that have a lot of supplies. And then I was on a Miami Beach hotel group, which was a small amount of us, and we were working with Heather Shaw. We're still working with Heather Shaw on Miami Beach, and this is what it looks like. See, you have like a picture. So their guidelines are really based on the county guidelines. If a municipality has a stricter guideline than Miami-Dade County, then that guideline applies. So I think most everybody is going under the umbrella of the Miami-Dade County, but they're adding some stricter guidelines. So that's important to know. But it's been a really good process as well, working with Miami Beach, and they are probably going to be they'll probably send out an updated guidelines in the next couple of days as well. So just go online. We'll get you the links, Miguel, so you have those. So they're constantly looking. I stopped printing because I was driving my family crazy. I love paper, I confess, but now I just go on and look at it because there's a lot of changes. Listen, not everything's going to be perfect. The key is that you be comfortable. I look at the concierges as really the frontline welcome greeters for our hotel guests, our visitors, and whatever. And you all are going to have that smile. And you're all. I was part of I don't know if you saw the Lenox Hotel piece that was on the news, and I was so delighted to see it. As small a hotel as it is, the furniture was spread out. They had decals in the little lobby, the beautiful lobby. The employees all had on masks. They had their spray, and it was sweet. I mean, it's what we need to do. And I think that the hotel industry will be leading the pack for all the businesses, office buildings. I know are doing things like that as well. So it's really up to us always to set a great example to welcome all of our visitors and our employees back. And don't be afraid. I think we're all afraid. I went to the dry cleaner the other day. I was afraid. I was nervous with my mask and my gloves and everything. But really, you all are going to really help embrace everyone in the way that you know. And that's the best way, the professional way. and with a lot of love. So we're here for you. The CVB has a great plan. There's a lot going on. It's South Florida, it's Miami. I predict we will come back faster than anyone else in the country. I think you're going to agree with that. And we had a revenue management panel the other day with an executive from Marriott was on that panel, along with some local revenue managers, and Ben Lau from STR. And when you saw his report on what's going on across the country with all the cities that are opening, it's in the 45 percentile, percentage of occupancy. So open carefully, open diligently, open, slowly, so that we don't have to close, right? That's really our goal. And anything that you need, we're here for you. Really appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you, Wendy. Cautious optimism probably would be the key word there.
Yes.
Making sure that everybody opens slowly so we don't have to do this again. Because
Exactly.
I think from this point forward, it's up to everyone to use the responsibility to make sure it happens. Real quick before we, if anybody wants to give us any questions, feel free to text it and we will read them off and have either Rolando or Wendy answer, or myself, whichever you prefer. But real quick, Rolando, you had mentioned that the cruise lines are not going to be in August, probably later on. Hold on,
I got you. So I muted. We're blessed to have a couple of colleagues here that have significant others that work within the cruise line industry. So I want to be respectful of those conversations. But what I think the cruise lines have announced, yes, that they're going to start sailing as early as August. As I alluded to, I think that was Carnival, even though some cruise lines have said that they're not going to start sailing again till the fall. There is so much up in the air. I think the cruise line industry is working with the CDC on what guidelines will be implemented. And again, once it's like hotels, just because the government allows hotels to reopen, doesn't mean all hotels may not reopen exactly on that schedule. In fact, I've already heard that some hotels may be looking, irrespective of June 1 holds, they may be looking at July or beyond. Same thing with cruise lines. I think depending on their customer base, so we all know that there's different cruise lines. Some of them specialize in a much more mature audience. Some of them specialize on a much younger audience. I think that's going to come into play as it is for many other industries as well. So it's going to be a very deliberate process. I would be surprised if any cruise line starts sailing as early as August. I think we all would be surprised. In fact, as we all know, they're still trying to repatriate some of their cruise members, but they keep announcing those dates, and then those dates keep slipping. And I think a lot of those conversations will be finalized in the coming weeks. I would mention, though, ironically, and I see this as more glass half full than half empty, thanks to the efforts of Ida and our sales team working with Isela, we actually have a major cruise convention at the Miami Beach Convention Center in November. It's called Cruise World. And Cruise World used to be up in Fort Lauderdale, and we were able to bring it down to Miami-Dade County, to the MBCC. We're hoping, we still have a significant number of conventions that are actually still on the books for the fall. Now, we don't know exactly, some of them may pull out, but we have 2020 was going to be a gangbuster year, ironically. Our convention center had finally been built out. So the team's been working very creatively to rebook those conventions that have to cancel or postpone. But that Cruise World convention in November, I see it as an opportunity for the industry itself to kind of, speak amongst themselves and to their passengers all the new guidelines that will be in place for future sailing. So we're hoping that convention doesn't cancel, and frankly, I think it's a great opportunity for them to finalize whatever plans they need to return to the industry successfully.
Perfect. And then domestic travel, you expect flights starting July? That's what I've seen from various carriers.
Yeah, I mean, flights are happening right now, albeit at a dramatically reduced. So when that chart that you saw earlier, the major adjustments are happening on the international side. I think that we've been in very close contact with American Airlines and And they've been doing an amazing job, and they had this very robust plan of having 100 flights restored back to MIA as one of their principal hubs. And then of course, based on what Argentina announced, and now with what's happening with Brazil, on the international side, I think those questions are still up in the air. Domestically, though, they continue to add capacity. It's ramping up, especially to some of those key feeder markets, and that's why we're aligning our recovery campaign with those markets as they come online. But there are domestic flights happening. There's actually some international flights. There's a UK flight that's happening, but it's very, very limited. But domestically, by far, especially now that the airlines have somewhat agreed on what the standards are in terms of masks, in terms of those middle seats, you're starting to see a coalescence of consistency. And I think that's going to be the foundation for people to start making their travel decisions.
Okay. We have a great question from Rafael Cuenca with Magic City Tours. What do you know about Art Basel and Miami Art Week? Is it going to happen?
And I guess I'll take that question. Wendy may have some additional thoughts as well. We all know what Art Basel means to this community since it's arrived, and it's been such an amazing experience. What it's meant not just for the convention center for Art Basel, but for the 25 other art fairs that are happening. Right now our convention center is operating as an alternative care facility. Thankfully it hasn't had to be used, but it can be used as a hospital if needed. I think that contract runs for another 30 days or so. We don't know exactly when the convention center may return back to normal. I know that under the leadership of Freddie Peterson, the general manager of the convention center, and Spectra, which manages not only the MBCC, but multiple venues across the country, they are working on their guidelines, which will allow them to reopen and reopen safely, including everything from social distancing to all the other measures that hotels are putting into place. But convention centers are kind of like a big venue. If you think about it, it's a lot of people in a relatively small place. So whether it's Hard Rock Stadium or Marlins Park, and in a different way, the MBCC, that's going to be critical. There's a lot of unknowns, but I have not heard anywhere that Art Basel would not be happening this December for a variety of reasons. And I think there's a lot of encouraging things that are happening out there. I'm sure you follow it, whether it's treatments or vaccines, or more importantly, all the measures that are going to be in place. So we're about 7 months from Art Basel, let's say 6 and change. I'm hopefully optimistic that we will have things figured out and that Art Basel will happen in this community.
All right, thank you. I have a question for Wendy from Tom Pentas. Will the hotels require guests to follow restrictive measures such as wearing masks, social distancing, and reducing utility of hotel amenities like pools, restaurants, beachfront, etc.? If guests wish not to follow the restrictive measures and just go about and trying to enjoy their stay, will the hotel carry out any enforcement actions or evict them? Wendy?
Yeah, that's where I need your help about enforcement. And I'm hoping that we don't have to do that. But yes, they are required to wear, and we're calling them facial coverings, by the way. I think that's a great concierge word, right? It's nice. It's instead of masks.
True.
They are in it, but if they don't do it, if they don't abide by, I think that's going to be a case by case, basis. I think sometimes, it's sitting down with the guests. Social distancing is everywhere. Hand sanitizers everywhere. So, I think that it's important to be diligent. I would hope that the guests will abide by it. I think more about, monitoring what goes on outside, like the pool, and if you're on a beachfront property, monitoring that is going to be really important. And you're going to have more employees working at the front door of the hotel. You're going to have more of that helping people in and guiding them. But I'm hoping that everybody will abide by the guidelines.
True. And let me add something too as well. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a personal responsibility from this point forward. And don't do it for yourself, do it for others. As you know, it's very contagious. You could be asymptomatic, carry it, not have a fever, not show any symptoms, but it can transmit to anyone. Could transmit to someone's grandmother, a child who has cancer, whatever the case may be. So if not for yourself, do it for everyone else. And just follow the rules. Make sure you wash your hands, use a sanitizer, use facial masks, do whatever it takes in order for us to continue back to where we used to be, and we can go on once we have a remedy for this. Any other questions? Sandy, you were questioning a copy of the guidelines. We're going to be providing all digital assets that you've seen on this presentation, both the presentation, the link that Wendy had showed, the paper handout. We'll have the link, so that'll be the most updated version, as well as all the videos and everything else. And we've also recorded this, and it will be presented back to you as well via email, so you can listen to it at your leisure. So with no other questions, I leave you with this. First of all, thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Rolando, for all your work and everything you continue to do. I know it's a daunting task. It seems like the end is never near. It's just a new chapter every single day. I see that yesterday, Alabama's beaches were full. The hotels were packed. And apparently in Australia, they're starting the human testing for various different vaccines. So that's somewhat of a light at the end of the tunnel. The markets opened up this morning with over 500 points in the plus range. Hopefully that'll stay that way. But whatever you do, just make sure that this new norm is your best norm. Your best normal, put your best foot forward, do it for yourself, do it for others. And I truly hope that we do get through this once and for all, and we'll be together once again, and not doing this, but also hugging and kissing and loving each other once more. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Rolando. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you to the 200 plus people that are a part of this. God bless you all. Be safe. Until next time, ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho, and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us.